Okay, I'm going to call the Wahoo Zoning Board of Appeals for November 7th, 2022 to order. And if we could pay respects to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Terry, will you do roll call, please?
Sue Sardi,
Here.
Dave Gerber,
Present.
Ed Randalls,
Present.
Michelle McClellan,
Here.
Ashley Ross.
Here.
And also Tanya Hauser, our alternate, is here tonight, though not seated.
Okay, next we have approval of the minutes from June 7th, 2021.
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 7th, 2021.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ross, supported by McClellan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And approval of the agenda for tonight.
If there's no changes, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for today, November 7th, 2022.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ross, supported by McClellan. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe we have any correspondence, do we, Terry?
No.
Okay. New business. We have to have election of officers, a chairperson. And I think in the past, we had the vice chair and the secretary together, correct?
Yes, we did, and that was Michelle McClellan, currently, with Sue as the
I've
current.
been so busy. Oh, is that what I am? I couldn't remember. It was like 2 years ago.
Do these need to be separate nominations?
You can, we have done them together in the past, so it's whatever you want to do them together, we can.
I was going to say you could just do it all together if it's the same people.
I will make a motion to elect Sue Basardi as the chairman and Michelle McClellan as vice chair and secretary.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion by Ross, supported by McClellan. Or no, I'm
Randall.
sorry, Randalls. I'm so used to saying her name, it was like, sometimes it's the same person all night. Do we need a roll call on that,
Yes.
Terry? Okay,
Ross,
Yes.
McClellan,
Yes.
Gerber,
Yes.
Sardi,
yes,
and Randalls.
Yes.
okay. We move into the public hearing on the Clean Hub Car Wash at 153 South Washington.
Yeah, we need a motion to go in.
Right,
So moved. Do I need to read the whole thing? Do you want me to read the whole thing for the record?
yes, please.
All right, I will make a motion to go into a public hearing for Clean Hub Car Wash at 7:04 for 153 South Washington Street, parcel ID 04-27-278-002.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ross, supported by Randolph. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call, Terry?
Yes, roll call to go in, it's a
Okay,
voice vote to go out. Randalls,
Yes.
Basardi,
yes,
Gerber,
Yes.
McClellan,
Yes.
and Ross.
Yes.
okay. Now's the time that if you have anything to say under public hearing, if you'd come up to the podium and just give your name and make any comments.
I'm the architect, do I say it now or do I wait till after?
I think you wait till after, but
Yeah,
this is a time for the public
Yeah.
to say that they're in favor of or against, basically. What's being proposed.
did anybody sign up, Terry?
Hmm?
Did anybody sign to? Okay, I'll ask again. Anybody have anything to say? I figure I'd get a minute here. All right, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by McClellan, supported by Randalls. Do I need a roll call, Terry? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Pose same sign. Okay. Mario, you want to
Yes.
start out?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight, as mentioned, to go over a request for variance for the Clean Hub Car Wash. So the site is approximately 1.56 acres in area and is occupied currently by a vacant single-story, 4,900 square foot building. It was previously utilized as the Cots Heating and Cooling office. The southern portion of the property has a single bank of off-street parking with a continuous asphalt surface that's basically shared and goes onto the adjacent property to the south. And in a similar situation, the property line for this site is pretty much at the center line of the access drive for South Washington Street. And then the remainder of the site is merely unimproved grass. So the applicant is proposing to demolish this existing building and construct a new car wash building on the northern portion of the site. The applicant received already conditional site plan approval from the planning commission for the use at their October 4th meeting. However, it was again the condition that the applicant receive a variance from one zoning ordinance requirement. So specifically, the zoning ordinance does have requirements for car wash establishments. The site has met all of those requirements from section 4.1.7 except for one. Paragraph A of that section states that vacuuming activities shall be permitted in the rear yard only, provided such activities are located at least 50 feet from adjacent residential zone or use property. So the applicant is proposing to locate the vacuuming parking spaces in the northern side yard instead of the rear yard. We do note that this proposed side yard location is 50 feet away from residentially used property to the north. So this variance is merely to whether allow them to have the vacuuming stations in the side, to require them to be in the rear or allow them to be in the side yard. So you already have my letter. I'm just going to briefly point out some of the highlights with regards to these standards from the zoning ordinance when granting a variance. You know, the main thing to look at is compliance with the strict letter of the restrictions would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome if they were not granted the variance. So the ordinance, as mentioned, would require the vacuum parking spaces on the west side of the lot, which is the rear. The intent of the ordinance by placing vacuuming in the rear is, mainly to screen the vacuuming activities and also to minimize impacts to adjacent residences. We also think, though, that this is kind of a standard more applicable to the classic type of vacuuming stations where you have a larger vacuuming piece of machinery with only one or two vacuums, cars per space, and then there's only 2 to 4 vacuums per car wash location. Current modern car washes, especially most recently, have a higher number of spaces due to the configuration of their vacuuming, and they tend to have anywhere from 15 to 20 vacuuming spaces. This particular application is for 20 vacuuming spaces. So one issue that's going to be also relevant is the fact that the property to the west is zone residential. So if the 20 vacuuming spaces were to be placed in the rear yard, the future adjacent residents would be subjected to the level of activity and the noise generated by 20 vacuuming spaces rather than a typical 2 to 4. So we do think that's unnecessary burdensome, both on the future residents and then also on the operator, because they would have to attempt to minimize their impact to the future residents. Other thing I would like to point out is that strict compliance with this rear yard requirement would require the site to be reconfigured. The car wash building itself, the stacking lanes, bypass lane, and the exit lane would have to be basically turned to be parallel to Washington Street. We do feel this reconfiguration would be inefficient and potentially even eliminate some of the site features that make the car wash highly functional, including having a bypass lane for the for the people entering the car wash, and then also minimizing the distance of the exit lane, and in the end, result in an overall less desirable layout. So we do believe that strict compliance with the rear yard requirement would unnecessarily and negatively impact future village residents and would unnecessarily burden the property owner with an inefficient and undesirable site configuration. Some other aspects is the fact that we consider as if this variance request is due to unique circumstances on the property. Similarly, just as mentioned, the site is somewhat unique due to the fact that there are very few, believe it or not, there are very few C2 zone properties that have this limited depth adjacent to R1 zone property. We do have other C2 zone properties, but they either have a rear yard that is adjacent to non-residential uses, meaning there would not be that impact on adjacent residents, or they actually have a larger depth, which would allow for a configuration that would allow for the car wash building, all the amenities, and putting the vacuum stations in the rear in compliance with the ordinance. But that's on other properties in the village. This site is somewhat unique in that this depth doesn't allow for that. Just finally, just one of the things to point out, we also want to make sure to consider if there's the variance being requested in the variance you grant would be the minimum necessary. As mentioned, this, a lesser variance really isn't feasible in this instance because the alternatives are to require or they're not required them to be in the rear yard. So it's an either or situation. So it's either they receive the variance or not. The granting of this variance will not increase any danger to public safety. And then we also consider if there would be any impact to any diminishment of property values. The variance will allow for vacuum spaces to be located actually at a greater distance from future residences than what is required by the ordinance. This particular location is farther away from the adjacent residence. So not granting the variance could actually negatively impact property values in the future by having the vacuum stations closer. So in the end, we would recommend that the Zoning Board of Appeals approve the requested variance for the property based on the finding of facts listed 1 through 5 in my letter. So I will take any questions at the appropriate time.
Is there any questions of Mario right now? No. Okay, so would you like to get up and,
Okay. My name is Alan Hall. I'm with API at 5101 Williams Lake Road in Waterford, Michigan. I'm the architect and did a great job of presenting the facts and the situation on the zoning ordinance. So I appreciate that. I think it's a good idea to keep the vacuums on the side. Residential. There is if you notice on the site plan, you'll see there's a road that goes parallel to those vacuum fumes. And then there's some parking there to the veterinary entrance there. So it's really an ideal spot. There's no really even a business there. It's just parking. So I'm here for any questions if you have anything. Thank you.
anybody have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Then I guess somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to grant the variance as requested by Clean Hub Car Wash, 153 South Washington Street, parcel ID 0427278022. Let's see. Do I need to give the reason why? Or is it just, okay.
You can utilize the list or whatever
Okay.
over your reason.
I think for this, strict compliance with the rear yard requirement would unnecessarily negatively impact future village residents.
You have a list of the finding of facts. If you read those, that would be in the record,
Right,
and that would.
What do you want me to read?
Perfect.
What do you want me to?
to read these
Yes,
five.
all on the finding of the following facts.
Yeah.
Based on the finding of the following facts. Sorry, read all 5 of them?
Yes,
Okay. All right. placing vacuum equipment in side yard to minimize impact of rear property adjacent to residential zoning based on the application, the applicant's presentation and testimony, the record presented at the hearing, and the finding of the following facts. Compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would result in an inefficient and undesirable site configuration and be unnecessarily burdensome on the property owner. Strict compliance with the rear yard requirement would unnecessarily negatively impact future village residents. The variance will provide substantial justice to the applicant and is not averse to the interest of other property owners and the zoning ordinance. The variance requested is the minimum possible to establish the proposed use in the desired configuration. The need for variance is not self-created.
I'll second that.
Now you just gotta tell me what to read. We're good.
Okay, we have a motion by Ross, supported by Randall. Terry, do you want to do roll call, please?
Lasardi,
Yes.
Gerber,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
McCollum,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Okay, we don't have any old business, public comment. Do you want to come up to the,
If you would hand these to the chair, please.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. My name is Dale Walicki, 59 North Washington, Northwest Plot, downtown. Rather outdated references, north of Huntoon Funeral Home, south of Dunlop Auto, the brick bungalow that sat vacant for 12 years, this is the green bungalow. I purchased the house 25 years ago, 1997, and so recently it was my residence. And many years ago, I was on the planning commission, and I was the resident representative on the DDA. If you recall, recently going through, I'm sorry, Sue, am I interrupting? All right, I thought you were checking your watch.
No.
I'll be done quickly.
no watch?
Yep. The MDOT has acknowledged they made a mistake during the M24 reconstruction. They did not obtain an easement across the sidewalk and streetscape at the residence. Took a year, but just before Labor Day, the sidewalk was removed in the picture I passed forward. Contractor did a nice job, although the brick pavers a little uneven, they need some work. The MDOT engineer mentioned they'll be coming back to do some additional work, redoing the driveway, curb cuts to the north and south. They've got to move some street lights, and apparently something with the sidewalk. I do not understand. It's to comply with the ADA handicap accessibility requirements. I don't understand what the issue is about the sidewalk. No one ever spoke to me about it. And the village, in the many years I was here, never enforced any of these ADA handicap laws. Years ago, we had a building official who was outright hostile to handicap, the disabled, and minorities. And we had a former village manager that failed to enforce the ordinance. He would just, it was such common knowledge, he wasn't going to do anything if you didn't fulfill your requirements, that people just decided not to put in their handicap ramps, their parking spaces, access to the buildings, handicap bathrooms. And then it was interesting, later somebody noted after that village manager was gone, yep, he never enforced the ordinances and there were no repercussions. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic. Village manager says this sidewalk removal is strictly an MDOT issue. The village had nothing to do with it. But I thought it best, I've told the planning commission, I've mentioned to the DDA, and I'm here so you have it, so you'll in the future be able to make decisions. And I hope I don't get in trouble for mentioning this. I have to thank State Representative Riley and his office staff. MDOT at the beginning refused to acknowledge they forgot to get the easement. And I also have to thank State Senator Baer and her staff and their assistants for getting MDOT to finally have a meeting with me so we could agree the sidewalk needed to be removed. So you have the two documents there. They'll have no idea when they'll be back. I have no idea what they have planned. And I
honestly, I can't tell you who you need to talk to. So, thank you for your time, and Josh, you'll get out of here pretty quickly tonight, won't you? Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Anybody else? Mario, do you have any?
Nothing else at this time. I would say, hope to see you again soon, but I think if you noticed, our zoning ordinance seems to be working pretty well, but we'll see.
Okay, Terry, what you got?
No, it's just nice to see you all again. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. Okay, board member comments? Michelle, I'll start with you.
No, it was nice to see you guys in person. That, but no.
Okay, Ashley,
No comments.
Adam,
No, ma'am.
Dave?
Comments?
Okay. I just have one thing to say, and I hesitated tonight whether I was going to say anything or not, but as much as I understand that you're going to tear down the building, as somebody who works at the Historical Society here in Oxford, I'm very sad about that because that building is over 100 years old. And it seems like, nobody cares about salvaging or saving some of our historic buildings, and it makes me very sad. So with that said, I will wish everybody happy holidays because I doubt if we'll get together before Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's, but everybody have great holidays and safe ones.
Can we just go right there?
And our next meeting date is to be determined, so I'll ask for an adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second. What's the time? I don't-
7:23.
At 7:23. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Pose same sign. Thanks, everybody.